Thomas Tuchel has been announced officially as the England manager, and I know when this is coming out it's a bit old news, but didn't it move fast? It moved so quickly, and I know the FA have said that they were talking to Tuchel for a long time. Apparently he officially applied for the job. Everyone remembers when the FA officially put the job out there and everyone was looking at the CVs thinking, can I go in for it? Apparently Thomas Tuchel did apply, so this is, according to the FA, a long drawn out process, but it does seem a bit odd. It might just be a coincidence that this came immediately after what was a relatively poor international break under Lee Carsley, particularly that Greece game. All the rumours straight after that Greece game came out about Tuchel, and then barely a week later is the manager. So I think there's a little bit of coincidence in that, but at the same time, I think it's forced it through much quicker. But 18-month contract, he's not starting obviously until January, and it takes him through to the World Cup, and that's it at the minute. So he's just got January, that calendar year, and then till the following summer, and then they're going to weigh up where he is at that point. And according to his press conference, it appears like that is something that Thomas Tuchel wanted and actually asked for and has been given by the FA. So he's come in saying, I only want an 18-month contract, and that's exactly what he's got. I don't know what that says about his commitment to the job, but he's obviously looking at the World Cup thinking, if I can take England to the US and win this thing, I'm an hero. And he's right, and he is right. He's seeing that squad. He's thinking, right, I've got one bash at it. He wants to start in January, apparently, because he only wants to concentrate on the World Cup and not have anything else like the Nations League, which is going to be a bit awkward if we finish second in the group and we go to a playoff, because he may be left with no choice but to play that playoff in the Nations League. Yeah, so he might have a long period, even starting in January, until he has his first competitive game in charge of England. Lee Carsley has, of course, gone back to the under-21. England now have a winner. And you can argue we've had that before under foreign coaches, such as Fabio Capello and Sven-Göran Eriksson, but the key difference here is that neither of them had managed in England prior to their appointment with the England national team, and I do think that makes a difference. According to the German media, he's a bit of an Anglophile German. He prefers it here than what he does actually in his native country, because I think the perception is that he feels he's been treated a little bit differently or a little bit more unfair in his native country, whereas over here he seems to feel like he gets the respect that he deserves. There's no doubt though this is split opinion. No doubt this is split opinion. Look, he's a good manager. No one is denying that. It does appear though a little bit of a backward step in regards to the FA and St George's Park and this long-term project of producing an English style, an English game, the same way the Spanish do. I mean, arguably other countries in Europe do. And it was about continuing that English way of playing that started with Gareth Southgate and ultimately started with St George's Park. For a lot of people, they're saying that is a backwards turn on this, and I do sort of get that point. And the irony that the FA, whose ultimate primary goal is to bring through new coaches and players, obviously, in this country through the ranks, the fact that they've gone out there and hired a German, it doesn't matter if the German or a foreign, let's say, manager at the helm of the England national team, it's a bit odd, isn't it? It does go a little bit against what they're supposed to stand for. However, we haven't won anything in nearly 60 years. And that's where this appointment comes from. You know, I get what everybody's saying. There is no outstanding candidates, really, who are English that are probably available. I do think, though, it's got nothing to do with English coaches not being good enough. I just don't think they're given the chance. You go back to Tuchel, you go back to these Spanish managers, they all start in their native country, and they're all more likely to get a job in the top echelons of their division, of their country, you know, in whether that's Serie A or La Liga or Bundesliga. These managers tend to find a team in those leagues that they can manage. In England, even championship teams now, even the foreign owners go abroad first and foremost. And I don't think it's because there's a lack of English talent out there. I just don't think they get the opportunity. I really, really don't. And the only English managers that do are the players, are the former players who have a name behind them. Lampard, Gerrard, Rooney, for example. They're the only ones that get the opportunity. And let's be honest, most managers, the best managers in the world, tend to not be the best players or were the best players during their playing career. So don't buy the fact that English coaches aren't good enough. I just don't feel like we get the opportunity. But of course, and this is the same for Spain, Italy, France, Germany, whatever. If you go abroad, there's always going to be a more outstanding candidate for your role. That is always the case. There's always going to be a case. That's the same for every country because the world is much bigger than your country. You're always going to get potential managers who would be better suited to that managerial role. The difference is that by default, other countries do always recruit a manager of their nationality. And I get the aspect that at international level, it's supposed to be our best versus your best. And having a German manager, I did hear somebody say that if England do go and win the World Cup, and that's obviously a big if, but if England do go and win the World Cup, it's going to have a little asterisk next to it. It won't, obviously, but for some English fans, it's going to have that little asterisk that says it was a German manager. I don't quite buy that. Look, if we go and win the World Cup, it's English players on the pitch who are doing the goods. It's as simple as that. He's just simply setting them up. I do sort of get the point of having an English manager, particularly for long-term progression and that image of what English football is. If I asked all of us to explain what Spanish football is, the possession-based football, technically good, playing little triangles, we all sort of understand what a Spanish game is. It's a bit more difficult to put that identity on an English game, and you've got to think then that there's some sort of correlation between why we haven't won anything and they have. But I think Thomas Tuchel, my personal opinion, I wanted Lee Carsley right at the start. It was going wrong. It was getting himself in all sorts of bloody twists and turns, and it was useless off the pitch. In the press conference, he was getting himself all confused, and he wasn't doing that great on it. Even though it probably was early to judge him, let's be honest, 4, 5, 6 games, is it really enough time? Probably not. But I don't think Thomas Tuchel's a bad appointment, and I am happy with it. I do think there's no doubt he gives us an opportunity of going to the World Cup and winning it. If I was a fan of another country, I'd be more worried about England now as a consequence of Tuchel being appointed. I would see it as a very shrewd appointment. Most people are saying it's a coup. Look, give him the World Cup. Absolutely give him the World Cup, but it does stink a little bit that the FA need to get their act together. And English football, in regards to fans as well at club level, demanding that English managers are given the opportunity. I look at Michael Carrick as someone who's done a fantastic job, for example. And I know a lot of English managers who have come up the ranks and who are in the Championship or even in the Premier League now, who are doing very, very well. It's not that by default English managers don't do any better than anybody else or any worse. It's just the fact that opportunity is limited. He has, of course, though, brought in Anthony Barry as his assistant coach, which is great. He worked with him at Chelsea, very young individual, Englishman, so that does add a little bit to it. I'm very excited. I'll be honest with you, I'm really, really excited. I'm a little bit disappointed, if I'm honest with you, that he's not starting until January. I think, look, if you want to do the job, do it. Start now. I just don't quite understand that. Just think, why wouldn't he want this time now if he's that excited? So I do see this as a positive, despite some of my grumblings. I think it's a really positive move. And if I'm really thinking about it hard, I think deep down this gives England a better chance of winning the World Cup. Let's wait and see. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all on my next video.